Welcome to Stochastic MLB DFS live before lock for the early slate. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And this show is sponsored by Sorare MLB, which is a digital trading card and NFT-based free-to-play MLB game. We'll talk about Sorare MLB a little bit more later on. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Adam, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Looking forward to a nice 7-game afternoon slate. Hopefully make some money.
Yeah, pretty nice to have splits. I didn't actually see what the night slate is. I assume it's also a larger slate, not just like a 2-gamer. Have you looked at that at all?
Sorry, what'd you say?
The night. I'm not sure how big the night slate is. It's nice to have an early slate that's 7 games. I have no idea if the night slate is also going to be a reasonably sized slate.
I think it's 6.
Nice. Oh, 7 and 6. That's a nice day. Two different slates on one day. I'll take it. All right, so we have 7 games to talk about. I haven't looked at weather or anything yet. We will look at that as we look through the games. Actually, first, Adam, I just got to ask, have you watched the series finale of Ted Lasso yet?
No, I totally forgot that came out last night.
It did. I went to watch it at like 10 o'clock my time and was really disappointed that it wasn't yet out. And then around 11:15 my time, I got a notification saying that it was out, and I started to watch it. And then I was like, I'm too fucking tired. I want to be into it when I watch it. So I ended up saving it for tonight.
Yeah. I had seen that it was going to be released at midnight Eastern and kind of made a note of it. Oh, I guess I'll stay up to watch it. And then I totally forgot and just ended up working on DFS stuff until 3 a.m. and went to sleep.
Yep. Tolga says Dodgers came through for me last night. Yeah, Dodgers did really well. I know that you liked the Dodgers, at least during our early show. I have no idea if that changed for you.
I still liked them. I didn't play them, but I liked them.
Yeah, they were one of the top stacks. Greg and I, when we went over our favorite stacks, if we were doing single entry, mine was the Blue Jays, his was the Orioles, and for the first 3 innings, that looked incredible. Both teams put up 1 million runs, although they weren't hitting home runs or anything, so it wasn't that great. But it was all right, they're at least set up for a big game, and then they just fell flat after that. So that was kind of disappointing. All right, we do have 7 games to talk about for this early slate that's going to start in just a little bit over an hour from now. First game on this slate is Texas at Detroit. We've got Dane Dunning on the mound for the Rangers, Joey Wentz for the Tigers. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
Not too much. I mean, Dunning does have the good matchup with Detroit, so that's nice. They do have a 4.1 implied run total. Decent pitcher, but 16.7% K percentage in a limited sample this year. Doubt that you're going to really need to get to him too much. Not looking to get the Wentz against one of the best offenses in baseball.
All right, what about the offenses on the other side?
And Dunning is pulling 13% ownership. I mean, I think that's reasonable, but it's still there's a lot of pitchers, more popular than him, more likely to succeed. As far as the bats go, I think the Rangers look pretty good. They pretty much always do. They are a really good offense. Wentz isn't a pitcher that I'm, shying away from taking hitters against. He's been really good at limiting power to lefties this year so far. Righties have lit him up. 248 expected ISO, 375 expected WOBA. Semion's going to look really good. Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, those guys are going to look good. You can still play Seager and Lowe. 1, they're just good left-handed hitters. And 2, if you get Wentz out of the game early, then those guys probably get the platoon advantage for most of the rest of the game. So Texas is going to look good. I think it's more difficult to get to the Tigers. They are really cheap. You did get a nice lineup bump for Akil Baddoo. No Riley Green. He's injured. So it makes this lineup even worse. This is really a terrible-looking Detroit lineup.
Yep. So how would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Texas, Dunning, I guess Tigers, Wentz.
All right. Dante says Neil shaved his chest hair only where the V-neck is showing. Yeah, I don't have a especially hairy chest. People see the beard and they assume I'm going to be super hairy. I'm not a really hairy guy outside of the beard. Obviously, not on my head. Not a super hairy guy. But where does Neil lined his chest hair? I don't know what that means, Kaisa. What does it mean to line your chest hair? Do you know what that means, Adam?
I don't know. I still haven't hit puberty.
All right. Second game on the slate, we've got Los Angeles at Chicago. Jaime Barria on the mound for the Angels. Lance Lynn for the White Sox. Any interest in these pitchers?
Yeah. Lynn is the number 1 pitcher in top 2 pitcher percentage. 33% projected ownership. Only $8,600. It is a dangerous matchup against the Angels. Anytime you're facing Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, that lineup can do damage. You have Moniak back in the lineup along with Taylor Ward, who homered yesterday. The bottom of the order is not the scariest, and overall, it's a decent matchup. 4.2 implied run total for the Angels. I think the price tag on Lynn just looks good, and most of the, I guess it's kind of split. Like Moniak and Ohtani are left-handed, Trout and Ward are right-handed. So pretty balanced lineup. Typically you do prefer Lynn against right-handed bats, but at least he does, sort of mitigate Trout, which is nice. 22.8% K percentage to lefties this year. He is giving up a lot of power to lefties. 270 expected ISO, 408 expected WOBA. Ohtani's going to look really good. Tice hitting fifth as a $2,400 catcher is going to look good. Jared Walsh is free. Moniak is cheap leading off. So I do think it's a pretty dangerous spot for him given the struggles he's had with left-handed power. As usual, he's been lights out against righties. 28% K percentage, 115 expected ISO, 290 expected WOBA. So I think he's a good play. I think part of the reason he's getting so much ownership is just that there's not a lot of pitching on this slate that you're going to look at and feel good about. And so I wouldn't say that you should shy away from taking bats against him if you're not playing him.
All right. How about how much interest do you have in the bats in this game?
Pretty decent amount. Again, I really like Moniak, Ohtani, Tice. On the other side, Jaime Barria is a pretty tough pitcher to figure out. He's been a reliever most of the year. They moved him back to the rotation. In previous years, going back to 2020, 190 expected ISO to lefties, only 130 to righties. Not a terrible pitcher, but you do still have a 4.8 implied run total here for the White Sox. You do have pretty reasonable pricing. Luis Roberts, the only guy in their lineup on DraftKings north of 5K. Tim Anderson's 4,700. Next most expensive guy is Moncada at 43. So pretty cheap stack to get to. I do expect that they'll get a bit of ownership. We have them with a 9% ownership projection, 8% chance of being the top stack. So they look pretty good. I'm interested in the offenses. It also looks like it's warm in Chicago. It should be in the low 80s.
All right. With that in mind, how would you rank the four sides of the game?
Lynn, White Sox, Angels, Barria.
All right. He says lined it up like a hairline. So I get what you're saying, but I can assure you I've never had to line my hairline on my head either, certainly. So that's why I'm like, the word is not familiar to me, but I understand what you're saying. Like some people have hairlines that actually like go down far and they have to like want to straighten it out kind of thing. I'm like, nah, it's not a concern for me. I'll take all the hair I can get up there. So I'm not chopping it off. All right. Third game on the slate, we've got Tampa at Chicago. Zach Eflin on the mound for the Rays. Justin Steele for the Cubs. Any interest in these pitchers?
Yeah, Eflin pulling 15% ownership, 23% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. He is expensive. It is a relatively difficult matchup with the Cubs. 4-run implied total here. Wind doesn't look like it's going to matter. Looks like it's around 80 degrees in Chicago, is just like it is on the other side of Chicago. So decent hitting weather. Eflin has been good this year for the most part. 24.5% strikeout percentage, not walking guys, 3.28 xFIP. And he's someone that we expected to be a bit better. He had always had solid underlying numbers in Philly. He'd always shown the ability to be a good pitcher at times. And it makes sense to get into Tampa Bay. He is turning things around a bit. So if you can find the salary for him, he looks pretty good at that ownership. It does look like he's coming in under-owned relative to top 2 pitcher percentage. The problem is just how easy is it going to be to get to a $10,500 price tag. On the other side, Steele is a solid pitcher as well. 9,100 against the Rays is a pretty difficult price tag to want to get to. He's pulling low teens ownership. I think that's fine, but I would prefer if you were a little bit cheaper. He's not a great strikeout pitcher. He's much better at just limiting hard contact, limiting power, and that's kind of a difficult sell when you're $9,100.
Sure. All right. How about the bats in this game?
Not a ton of interest. I think both pitchers are good. 4.5 implied run total for Tampa. You can always get to them in tournaments. They are looking to go a little bit under owned. 7% chance of being 7% ownership, 9% chance of being the top scoring stack. Steele so far this season, sub 100 expected ISO to righties, 183 to lefties. If you go back to last year, though, 112 to lefties, 101 to righties. 30% K percentage to lefties, 21% to righties over that time. He is going to face a predominantly right-handed Tampa lineup. Brandon Lau is the only left-handed hitter in there. So again, that's a negative for his strikeout stuff, but he's still been really, really good at limiting power. And then on the other side, Eflin also pretty good at limiting power. Going back to last year, 136 expected ISO to righties, 155 to lefties. This year, pretty similar, 161 to righties, 159 to lefties. I don't mind if you get to some, Horner, Swanson, Happ, Suzuki, but it's pretty tough, I think, to prioritize either of these teams.
All right. How would you rank the four sides of the game?
Eflin, if you can find the salary. Tampa, Steel, Cubs.
Okay. Stephen Lewis says, "Welcome to man grooming with Neil Orfield." The problem is that what I'm saying is I don't really man groom. Like, I mean, obviously the beard somewhat, but like I don't have to do a ton of grooming myself. So not gonna be able. We made it through 3 games in 15 minutes, Adam, and we started a few minutes late. So we're flying through this game. So we have plenty of time to talk about man grooming, but I don't know that I have much to say about man grooming, sadly. So I guess instead, what I will talk about is our sponsor, Sorare MLB. We've been talking about it, of course, throughout the past several weeks. It's a game that I love to play. And damn, I am in 60th place so far this week in the limited pro contest. Have not yet got anything out of Jordan Romano. I'm never very hopeful when I have slates where I'm not playing, when I don't have a Strider start in here. So, good to see the fast start here. But I've been tricked before where I've gotten off to a hot start in these contests, and then like the final day I end up outside the money. So not going to get too excited here. But I did once again. I stacked it up this game. I did Dodgers and D-backs. My 2 different teams that I stacked here, along with McClanahan, did fine in his start. Not spectacular. Hopefully, I'll get a relief appearance at least for Jordan Romano. But yeah, not the best start for me here. But if you are interested in playing some Sorare MLB, you can get started for free. When you sign up for Sorare, you're going to be given a salary cap and a number of different common cards you can choose from. These are cards that don't have any monetary value. You can't sell them or anything like that. But what you can do with these common cards is play them in the common contests where you can win real prizes. So you can play for free. You can win real money prizes at Sorare. Highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. I'm about to put the link into chat. You can also find the link in the description of this video. All right, I just put the link for Sorare into chat, so please do use that link when you sign up for Sorare if you haven't already done so. Highly recommend checking it out. It is, again, free to play on Sorare. When you sign up, you're going to get free cards you can enter into contests where you can win real prizes that you can then sell on the secondary market on Sorare. It's really easy to do, like very, very straightforward how to sell your cards if you want to. Check it out if you haven't already. Adam, what do you think of this lineup? This is, to be honest with you, I didn't put a ton of work into this one because I was returning from Texas on the day that the contest started. So I, was kind of like, I'll just use the cards that I have here. Also didn't have the Strider start. So I'm like, probably not going to win this week anyway. So I didn't put a ton of work into it. Now it's doing okay, but I think this is an okay looking lineup, this Dodgers D-back stack.
Yeah, I like it. And I feel like I'm biased towards liking it because of how last night went. I know Carroll had a big game. I know Marte had a big game. I know Freeman homered. So, yeah, I mean, it looks good. I like the stacking. You got good pieces from those offenses as well.
Yeah, I'd say for like I didn't buy any new cards or anything for this. So under those conditions, I feel like it did okay. Or it turned out like an okay lineup, but we'll see how it ends up. Not convinced that it's going to end up making money, but I can dream. All right, we have made it through 3 games already, Adam. Next up, we've got Cleveland at your Baltimore Orioles. Shane Bieber on the mound for the Guardians. Keegan Aiken for the Orioles. Any interest in these pitchers?
Sorry, I was answering a question about Jackson Holiday
Okay.
being ready, but no. So we have a bullpen game for the Orioles. Keegan Aiken likely to open. Austin Voth following. Voth can give you 4 or 5 innings potentially. He is only 6K. He is facing a Cleveland team that has been the worst offense against right-handed pitching this year. Not a lot of strikeouts there, though. We have Voth with about an 8% chance of being a top 2 scoring pitcher, 1% ownership. From a value standpoint, he looks okay, but probably won't need to get there. Bieber on the other side is the more appealing of the two. We know that he has had some struggles this year. His strikeout percentage is down for the second year in a row, down considerably for the second year in a row. 163 expected ISO to lefties, 370 expected WOBA, 19% strikeout percentage. Not exactly what you want to see facing a left-handed heavy lineup in Camden Yards. 15% strikeout percentage to righties, 319 expected WOBA. He's been okay, still relatively expensive at 9,400. But like I said, we don't have a ton of pitching you're going to be confident in on this slate. So he does still make some sense. He's pulling about 14% ownership with a 19% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I do think it's kind of interesting the gap in ownership between him and Lance Lynn. They're getting more than twice the ownership going to Lynn, who is $800 less expensive. Lynn has a 27% chance of being a top 2 pitcher compared to 19. But the ownership gap seems a little bit wide, but it's still a tough matchup with Baltimore. The lack of strikeout stuff from Bieber is certainly concerning, and it's still a good top of the order for Baltimore. One thing that I do like for Bieber is that the bottom of the order here does get pretty weak. You have Aaron Hicks hitting 6th. Used to be good, hasn't been good in years. Who knows if the O's are going to be able to turn him around, but they signed him when Cedric Mullins went on the injured list. So you have him batting sixth. He has struck out like 27% of the time this year, back when he was with the Yankees. Ryan O'Hearn has power. He's hit well at AAA and with the O's this year, but there are strikeouts there. Jorge Mateo will strike out. Ryan McKenna will strike out. So if Bieber can navigate his way through the Frazier, Rutschman, Santander, Mountcastle, Henderson part of the order, which is certainly a difficult task, he should be able to have success with the bottom of this lineup.
All right. How much interest do you have in the bats here?
I like the bats for Baltimore. Again, Bieber's not striking guys out. Left-handed power does play up in Baltimore. And while there are plenty of strikeouts at the bottom of this order, Ryan O'Hearn does still have power at 2,100. Unfortunately, you can't roster him in the same lineup as Ryan Mountcastle on DraftKings, but at least 1 through 5, I like them. The two big problems that stand out with Baltimore stacks are that 1, you can't roster their number 6 hitter because Aaron Hicks isn't in the player pool, and 2, you can't roster Mountcastle and O'Hearn together. So it does really limit the combinations of Baltimore stacks that you can make, but 1 through 5 does set up pretty nicely against Bieber.
All right. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Bieber, Orioles, Voth, Guardians.
All right.
Within the Guardians, though, I do think that like 3 through, or really 2 through 6 looks 2 through Rosario, Ramirez, Naylor, Bell, Jimenez. You could throw Arias in there too. I think they all look fine, but you run into a similar issue there where you can't stack 4 and 5 together. It's a spot where I probably get more one-offs and mini stacks.
Okay. Makes sense. Jorge is saying, well, huge FYI, Excel export functionality on Fantasy Cruncher not working at all. I was disabled export using Late Swaptimizer, so maybe you could try that if you're having trouble with the Jorge. But so far I have not had issue exporting. It is maybe a little bit different sometimes when you're using Late Swaptimizer versus the regular export. Adam, have you tried exporting at all this morning?
No.
From Fantasy Cruncher? Okay, so yeah. So I don't know if anybody else is using Fantasy Cruncher, let us know if there are issues. It is, of course, not a stochastic product, so somebody would have to get in touch with Fantasy Cruncher itself. But I am currently not having any issues with it, so can't help you there. We just got a question: who are the cash game pitchers for DraftKings? From Jeff Williams. Do you have any thoughts on which pitchers you'd consider in cash games, Adam?
I don't. I haven't built a cash lineup based on ownership. I assume it's going to be Alex Wood and Lance Lynn. But it's also going to depend on like also what you're doing with bats. Like Wood is getting a bunch of ownership because he's cheap. If you could afford somehow Lynn plus Eflin, I guess you would do that, or Lynn plus Keller. But I'm assuming it's Lynn and then either Wood or Schuster.
Yeah, it's definitely not like the most straightforward slate in terms of
There's definitely not 2 pitchers that I look at and say like, oh yeah, these are the 2 best pitchers today.
Yeah, so just looking at I'm looking at top 2 pitcher odds, but yeah, there's more to it than top 2 pitcher odds. I think that you're right to look at it from an ownership lens there.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm saying like you necessarily want the highest owned pitchers. It's just generally the highest owned pitchers are going to be the ones that are showing up in the highest projected lineups.
Right, that makes sense. All right, next game we have. Let's see, I stepped away from it. Oh, Atlanta at Oakland. We've got Jared Schuster on the mound for the Braves, James Caprillion for the A's. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
Yeah, Schuster looks pretty good, pulling about 30% ownership. Just mentioned him a second ago at 6,500. I actually got a good amount of him last slate against, last time he pitched against, I think it was Philadelphia, and I didn't actually like him there. I didn't expect to get to a lot of him. Here you do get a good spot, and while he is unproven, he has had some issues so far this year in his rookie year. He gets a great matchup against Oakland. He gets to face them in Oakland, which is nice as well. So 340 expected WOBA to righties with a 15% strikeout percentage, 27% K percentage against lefties, but also a 375 expected WOBA. But you're facing essentially a minor league baseball team in a good pitcher's park. 3.7 implied run total for Oakland is the lowest on this, tied with the Nats for the lowest on the slate. So on a slate where none of the pitching looks great, I don't mind just saving some salary going to Schuster in a good spot. Caprillion, a much more difficult sell. He is very, very cheap, so he fits the bill for if you're just punting pitcher and spending on bats. But it's a pretty tough sell to take one of the worst starting pitchers in baseball and throw him in against the Braves. 5.8 xFIP this year, 13% walk percentage, 1.8 home runs per 9. He is striking out 21.5% of hitters, which is better than usual, but really, really difficult to get to him.
Michael Knack says, Adam, if you don't know who James Wood is, you're dumb as fuck. So just keep that in mind that Michael Knack thinks that you are dumb as
no
fuck.
idea who James Wood is.
I also don't know who James Wood is. So so you're watching a show of a couple guys who are dumb as fuck, just for what it's worth. All right. How much interest in chalky Braves or A's bats?
Definitely interested in the Braves. Good matchup against Caprillion. Bad park. That's the only negative, same negative we mentioned yesterday. Caprillion so far this year has really gotten lit up by lefties. 426 expected WOBA, 281 expected ISO, righties 329 expected WOBA, 140 expected ISO. So he has actually held his own against righties so far this year. Last year, the same thing, 157 expected ISO, 327 expected WOBA. That's not to say that you don't want to play guys like Acuna and Riley and Murphy. Obviously, they are really good, but it really makes Matt Olson stand out. Ozzy Albies will be hitting from the left side, which is typically his weaker side, but Olson in particular looks great.
All right. How would you? Are you playing any A's? Do you say?
No, I'm not playing. Not planning to play the A's. If you did, I mean, Ruiz, Rooker, Laureano, Diaz are all cheap.
Okay. Alvin Dimer says, LOL, I think Adam is trolling about not knowing who James Wood is. Are you trolling, Adam?
No. I mean, so now that Dante clarified that he's a top 10 prospect, I recognize the name now. I think was he part of the Soto trade?
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, James Wood's a pretty common name. And
isn't that like an actor too? Like
yeah,
kind of
I think it's an actor.
Yeah.
Or it is an actor. And the original question was, am I coming to the Bay Sox game Friday to see him? So I was thinking Orioles prospects and had no idea who he was.
Yeah, that'll throw you off a little bit. All right. How would you rank the four sides of this Atlanta-Oakland game?
Atlanta, Schuster, A's, Caprillion.
All right, we've got a couple people requesting that we do tiers. Do you think you're prepared to talk about tiers at all, Adam?
I mean, I'm not, but I can look at it.
We can try and pull that up. I feel like this is a good, spot to do it since we still have over half an hour left and like 2 games left on the slate. So we can certainly talk about some tiers today.
Yeah, good. Mark Curry's right. The actor is James Woods, but also people in chat typically mess that kind of stuff up.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That was actually who I thought he was talking about at first because he said the Bay Sox Stadium.
Yeah, so I was trying to put together why he would be, one, why I would care, and two, why he would be there.
Yeah. All right. Tier 1, we've got Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani. What do you think?
Ohtani
number 1. You got the lefty on righty there. Tier 2, Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, Will Smith, Mookie Betts.
Matt Olson. 2 of my favorite home run picks back to back.
Nice. Tier 3, we've got Freddie Freeman, Aroldis Garcia, Randy Arozarena, Brian Reynolds, Luis Robert, Jose Ramirez.
Garcia.
All right. Tier 4, we have Josh Jung, Sean Murphy, Nico Horner, Adley Rutschman, Austin Riley.
Josh Young. You can definitely make a case for either of the Braves guys, but I like the Young matchup a little bit more.
All right. Tier 5, Yandy Diaz, JD Martinez, Lane Thomas, Nate Lowe, Dansby Swanson, Brandon Lau, and Tim Anderson.
JD.
And then Tier 6, we've got Jonah Heim, Ryan Mountcastle, Seiza Suzuki, Andrew McCutcheon, Jorge Mateo, Ozzy Albies, Yohan Moncada, and Javier Baez.
Probably Albies.
All right, so there you have it. Adam's favorite tier picks. Are you? Did you spot any correlations there that you're concerned about, like trying to take advantage of it all?
There's a lot of Braves and a lot of Dodgers.
Yeah, so you could at least think about correlating.
You could definitely correlate there.
All right, so there you go. Yeah, that's true. So we have a few you can think about if you're doing, some tiers lineups. Think about maybe correlating some of them. A lot of different ways you can approach tiers there. I thought we had other questions as well that I wanted to answer, but I'm blanking on them right now. Maybe we got through them actually. All right, so we have just 2 games left to talk about here, Adam. And then if you guys have questions, we've got time. Feel free to shoot them at us. We're going to try and get out of here by 1 o'clock Eastern, so we'll have 10 minutes to set lineups, but still plenty of time with just 2 games left. Next up, we've got Pittsburgh at San Francisco. Mitch Keller on the mound for the Pirates. Alex Wood for the Giants. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
Yeah, Keller's been really, really good this year. Now you get him pitching on a slate with limited options in a good pitcher's park. Not the best matchup. The Giants are a tough offense. 4-run implied total here, still one of the lowest on the slate. 34% K percentage against left-handed hitters for Keller so far this year. 27% against righties. Both of those obviously really good. 280 expected WOBA to righties, 271 to lefties. He is really good. And I've talked about it before. This improvement has sort of come out of nowhere to where like I could see being hesitant to buy into him. I personally don't mind buying into it because I've thought he should be an ace for many years now, and he's finally doing it. So I kind of view it as something that was a long time coming as opposed to something that came out of nowhere. Good park. And again, he's just, when you compare him to the rest of the pitchers on this slate, he's just so much better than most of them that I'm certainly happy to get there. I will say that it's interesting to me he's pulling nearly double the ownership of Zach Eflin. I think he's the better option. I don't think it's by that big of a margin.
Okay. Let's break in here. I like this question from Out to Lunchable. Thanks for everything, guys. I get lineups and feel too many players are on home teams, and I'm limiting my chances at bats. What makes you consider an away player's value versus a home player's value? Do you have any thoughts there, Adam?
Yeah, so I don't. It's the only difference is that the away players should have a slightly higher at bat projection, but that's just going to go into the projection. Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to go into like the team's totals and stuff. It's not something that I factor in. I understand the thought process. It's actually something that Alex, I remember, used to talk about occasionally, just the home versus away. That is something that he seemed to factor in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our top stacks tool, you can tell that we factor into that.
Right. So
I don't love it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's already factored in, so it's not something that I factor in on top of what our projections and top stacks will tell us to do. So I guess that's my answer. Just not something that I'm like going out of my way to factor in because the tools are already factoring in for me, and I'm very reliant on the tools for MLB. So for me, it's not something that I like independently factor in.
Right. Like, yeah, the only difference it makes is that, again, your at bat projection should be slightly higher for the guys on the road, but that's going to be factored into projection. And if you're scoring, even if you're winning, you're getting the ninth inning, which is nice, but that doesn't make that much of a difference because if you scored a bunch of runs, innings 1 through 8, you're still likely to be good. Like you're still only missing out on, fractions of an at bat.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. All right. Speaking of at bats, how much interest do you have in the bats in this game, Pittsburgh or San Francisco? You playing either of these teams?
Not too much. I mean, the Giants, again, they do have a pretty good offense, but the park kills home runs. Keller is really good. On the other side, Alex Wood is likely to be popular. I didn't specifically mention him, talked about Keller, but 6,800 for Wood. He is projected to be one of the highest owned pitchers, the highest owned pitcher on the slate at 36%. He's a solid enough pitcher. He strikes out 23% of hitters, 4.5 FIP. For that price tag, no real issues there. But I think you can potentially look to some of the Pirates bats just to go against the most popular pitcher on the slate. 203 expected ISO, 330 expected WOBA allowed to righties this year, 182 actual ISO. Again, playing in San Francisco, he's not likely to live up to that expected ISO. He's been very good at limiting production to lefties, not striking them out a lot, but looking to McCutchen, Reynolds, Hayes, Joe can make some sense. The problem is just that like Reynolds is expensive, McCutchen's relatively expensive, so it's not the easiest team to get to.
Okay. Makes sense. How would you rank the four sides of the game?
I guess Alex Wood 1 just because he's so cheap and he's going to be easier to get to. Keller 2, Pirates 3, Giants 4. All
right, perfect. So we've got just one game left to talk about, another 25 minutes here. So this is a good opportunity to take a look at lineup generator. So I'm going to pull that up on the screen now. We just got a question about it from Noah Rosen asks, hey Neil, how does the MLB lineup generator look for this early slate? We don't have lineup generator. We only have it for main slates currently. We can only support one slate per game. I'm not sure at what point that is going to change. I assume it's going to change at some point. I guess I don't really know for sure because I don't know like what goes into it, like what the hangups are there, what the obstacles are. But for now, at least we only have lineup generator for main slate. So we're not actually going to be able to look at it for this slate, but we'll take a look at what some of the lineups look like for the evening slate now. And I'll take a look at DraftKings, all stack types, and we'll do some balanced lineups. Not gonna lock anybody in. A little bit different from yesterday when we had 13 games and it was very, very flat across the board where we got to a lot of different stacks. I'm curious to see if we're gonna be getting like a ton of some individual players here, or if it's gonna be a little bit more balanced on this slate as well. First lineup we're seeing here looks like it's a 5-3 Arizona and Red Sox stack with James Paxton and George Kirby on the mound. Total lineup ownership of 163%, leaves 700 on the table. This looks like a pretty good lineup to me, Adam. We've got a little bit of correlation with James Paxton along with the Red Sox secondary stack here. Everything about this lineup looks pretty good to me. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, looks fine. I have no idea who these people are facing. I haven't looked at the slate, but
True, me neither.
yeah, I mean, I like the names and I like the correlation.
Right.
Ownership looks fine.
Yeah, and that's generally what I'm looking at for the most part. The pitchers not like extremely chalky. We know that they're good pitchers. We get some ownership on Justin Turner, a good amount there, good amount on Corbin Carroll, but like we still get Kike Hernandez at just 8%, Josh Rojas at 9%. So kind of dampening the ownership there, and nobody's getting like 30-40% ownership here, so not a huge concern. Yeah, this looks like a good lineup to me. I'm going to save that one. Looks like Arizona and Boston are some of the better teams on this slate because now we have, what do we have? This is a 5-2 Arizona stack. Arizona. Yeah, 5. So it's probably just a 5-man Arizona stack. Happens to have 2 Red Sox in it, but ends up being a 5-2 stack. Arizona and the Red Sox once again. Now we have Tommy Henry and Hunter Brown as the pitchers. Hunter Brown bringing in a little bit more ownership, 41% there. We get the low-owned Josh Rojas once again, but then Hunter Brown paired with Tommy Henry, who's getting just 11.5%. So still keeps the ownership in check. Looks like another good lineup. I'm going to save that one. And then we'll just take a look at one more, and then I'll just save them all and show you what it looks like at the end. So we've got, again, Hunter Brown here with Aaron Nola. Now we've got a 5-man Boston stack, or is this 4-4? 4-4 Boston and Cincinnati stack. Looks good as well. Stuart Fairchild getting just 4% ownership. Jose Barrero, 4.5%. So kind of got those guys keeping the ownership in check here. All of these lineups have had ownership like low 160s. So kind of interesting to see they're all sort of in the same ownership range. I'm going to save this one. We'll see what we get at the end. All right, so looking at first 20 lineups that we get 80% Hunter Brown here, 50% Matt McLain, the shortstop. Adam, do you think that if you went through these lineups, saved those 20 lineups, and you saw at the end that you had 50% Matt McLain, is that something that you would try to get away from? Like, would you go in and maybe delete some of your Matt McLain lineups and go find some other types of lineups?
Possibly. So I think you could go either way on that. If you're playing 20 lineups, obviously, like, you're gonna, in a lot of spots, you're gonna naturally get higher exposure to players than you would if you were playing 150. I think it kind of comes down to your risk tolerance. Like, I don't hate the idea of doing that and just kind of putting yourself in a position where if these players do well, if this small group of players at the top do well, then you're cashing a bunch of lineups and then you're, kind of mixing other guys in throughout. Another approach I think you could take that I take sometimes in my 20 max is see what the exposures look like across 150, which obviously it's not something you can really do here, but like getting an idea of like where I would be in a 150 set and then
Sure.
the leading down to that in 20 max is an approach I'll take.
Yep, that makes sense. All right, I'm going to put the link in chat for lineup generator. Just threw that into chat, and you can get it for 50% off currently. So it's just $4.50 for your first week of lineup generator, just $9 after that. So even after your 1 week half off trial, you're still going to get it for just $9 a week. Fantastic deal. Again, every lineup that you get in lineup generator is going to be a positive EV lineup according to these stochastic sims. So again, every lineup that you get here is going to be a good one, essentially, is what that means. They've already been vetted by the team. We did get Ryan asked us to run FanDuel. I'm just going to do that real quick. We can take a look at what some FanDuel lineups look like. And I'm going to do, once again, all stack types. I'm going to do balance builds, and I'm not going to lock anybody in there. So on FanDuel, the first lineup, we get Hunter Brown. Yeah, just 22% ownership. Looks pretty good. We get Hunter Brown with Boston and Arizona. So it looks like a 4-3 stack here with George Springer as a one-off. Not crazy high ownership. Brought down a lot by Geraldo Perdomo, Josh Rojas not getting a ton of ownership. Man, we're the lineup are really liking Josh Rojas apparently on both sites today. But again, not crazy high ownership. We are using the max salary on FanDuel. Looks like a good lineup to me.
I hate Josh Rojas.
Did he cost you some money or something?
Yeah, at some point last year, I was winning an early slate tournament. I think I was on a show and winning the early slate tournament, and basically just needed Josh Rojas not to hit a home run, and then he hit a home run for Broflex, and Broflex beat me.
Fucking Broflex. I've been there. It's Jake Cronenworth for me, who cost me $75,000 with literally all I needed was it might have. I'm probably exaggerating slightly, but I think there were like maybe 2 or 3 Padres players who could have hit a home run to beat me, and Jake Cronenworth happened to hit a home run in the 7th inning of the only remaining game, and it cost me $75,000. So
at least you knew it was coming, and you weren't J-Mac just
That's
live
true.
on stream bragging about your huge win as you lose it.
That's true. It was good to it's good to have some forewarning there. All right. Still getting to a lot of Josh Rojas. Sorry, Adam. Okay, this lineup does not have Josh Rojas in it. We got a Boston and Toronto stack with, again, Clark Schmidt now as a pitcher, just 11% ownership. I'm just going to save, and we'll look at the end again here. Yeah, so now we're getting to a ton of Corbin Carroll, Kettle Marte, Rafael Devers. A lot of ownership going to some of these bats here. So, same kind of logic applies. You could, if you want to take on a lot of risk and, just hope that these guys do well, you could just play these 20 lineups. But if you want to mitigate your risk a little bit, you could go back, delete some of your, Arizona stack, get rid of some of your higher owned players and try some other stacks as well. So a lot of different ways to approach it. Even though you are every lineup you get is vetted and these are all going to be plus EV lineups, there's still a lot of game theory goes into selecting which of those plus EV lineups you want to play, which different kind of combos you want to go to. So really there is skill involved in using lineup generator. I think a lot of people miss.
Yeah, I think the thing to keep in mind is that there's so many potential lineups that can be made, and there's a lot of winning lineups that can be made. So it's kind of like a balancing act of okay, well, I really like these players. I really like the way these lineups look, but also how overexposed to some spots do I want to be, given that I can also find good lineups that just don't include, that player.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's just, you still want to put some thought into it. Probably you could just run those 20 lineups out every day and probably succeed long-term, but also, you might want to try different approaches there. All right, we will move on, Adam. We do have one final game to talk about here. That game being, wait one sec, I got to refresh because we got new lineups apparently. Oh, we've got the Dodgers game is the only one left, right?
I'm not sure. I just clicked off of it.
Yeah. All right. Yep. I just refreshed. So give us 1 minute here to get everything set up. The final game of the slate.
Braves too, right? And the Giants game.
As far as lineups go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I meant we only have one game left to talk about here.
Yeah. I thought you meant lineup.
No, yeah, we're actually waiting.
I was like, shit, did I miss 4 teams coming out?
Yeah, no, we're waiting on several lineups to come out. But in terms of what we have left to talk about, I don't know what I just did here. For some reason now I'm getting to screwed up my stacks a little bit. All right, let me just change this real quick. All right, final game of the slate. We have Washington at Los Angeles. Patrick Corbin on the mound for the Nationals. Noah Syndergaard for the Dodgers. Battle of the once-wers, I guess. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
I like the matchup for Syndergaard. The Nats are really bad at hitting. They don't strike out a ton, but if you get to some Syndergaard on this slate, I don't think it's the end of the world. He's only pulling 12% ownership. 15% chance of being a top 2 pitcher is in line with Alex Wood and Jared Schuster, and he is getting 1/3 the ownership of those guys. That is interesting to me, as much as I absolutely hate Noah Syndergaard. The numbers back up him being a pretty good tournament play here. I have a really hard time wanting to get to Patrick Corbin. 5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, no ownership, but brutal matchup against the Dodgers. If I were going to a completely unowned 6K pitcher, I think I would go both over Corbin.
All right. And then on the other side of it, obviously we've got, I believe the Dodgers have the highest implied run total on the slate up against Patrick Corbin. How much interest, if any, do you have in the Dodgers or the Nats here?
Yeah, very interested in the Dodgers. Corbin is just not a very good pitcher anymore. 199 expected ISO to righties this year, 176 to lefties, 381 expected WOBA to righties. It's about 300 to lefties. You can obviously play Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy if they're in the lineup, but Betts, Smith, Martinez, Taylor, Vargas, Thompson, these guys are all going to look really, really good against Corbin. They're going to be popular. Right now, they are projected for basically the same ownership as Atlanta. Both teams pulling about 15%. The next highest team in aggregate ownership is Texas at about 9%. So you're going to need to find ways to be different if you're going there, but it sets up as a great spot for the Dodgers.
All right. And then how would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Dodgers, Syndergaard, Nats, Corbin.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, guys, we are going to give you our favorite single entry, our favorite pitches and stuff. We'll do all of our end of show stuff that we usually do here. I do want to first tell you that we do still have a great offer going with BetMGM. You can get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum and your first bet covered up to $1,000 paid back in bet credits when you sign up, make a deposit, and make your first paid wager at BetMGM. I believe that needs to be at least $10. I think that's the lowest you can go, but generally it's going to make more sense to bet more than $10 because, again, you get your first paid wager is completely covered up to $1,000. So if you lose the bet, if you put a $50 bet down, you're going to get $50 back if you lose the bet in bet credit. So it doesn't really cost you that much anyway, and you can do that up to $1,000. That's obviously the best way to do it, is to actually bet a full $1,000, and you're going to get that covered for your first bet. But you can, I think, do as little as $10, however much you want to play, you're able to play. And on top of that, you're going to get a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. So all the tools that we're talking about here, including lineup generator, including top stacks tool, top pitches tool, all of this is included in this first month that you get for free when you sign up at BetMGM. So make sure you check that out. Click the link below or use promo code PLATINUMSUB when you sign up to take advantage of this offer. Again, the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But yeah, check out this BetMGM deal. Again, the link is in the description of this video. Probably the best way to take advantage of the deal. If you live in a state that has legal betting and has BetMGM and you for some reason have not yet signed up, this is as good a deal as you're going to find anywhere in the industry. So make sure you check out that deal. Okay, Adam, we've made it through all 7 games on the slate. We usually talk about if you were in a 3 max contest and you could you want to play 3 different stacks, which 3 stacks think you'd go to?
Probably would go. I mean, ownership's pretty efficient right now. Probably Atlanta, Dodgers, Texas. None of the ownership looks crazy here. If you wanted to get a little bit more contrarian, probably Dodgers. I do like the Dodgers a little bit more than I like the Braves, just the way they match up with Corbin versus the way the Braves match up with Caprillion. Dodgers, Texas. Either, maybe like the Angels or White Sox.
Okay.
But I think going Braves, Dodgers, Texas with the way ownership looks right now is perfectly fine.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite single entry? DM Brian asks, what's your favorite single entry play for the early slate?
Probably the Dodgers.
Let me see if I have an opinion here. I might go to Texas just because they're the one that has a little bit of positive leverage here. I think the Rangers look good enough.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I do like the gap in ownership there between the Dodgers and Rangers. There is also a gap in top stack percentage, but they still look good.
Right. Yeah, it's I generally just go for one that has positive leverage and also has really good top stack odds. It's not not much that goes into it, not much thought that goes into it necessarily. Usually, 3 favorite pitchers on this early slate.
That's a tough one. So
yeah,
Lance Lynn scares the shit out of me, but he looks good at that price. I like Schuster at 6,500. I like Keller a lot if you can get there. I did mention it when we talked about the games. The gap in ownership between Keller and Eflin is probably too big. The gap between Wood, Schuster, and Syndergaard is too big, where Syndergaard's a good tournament play. But in terms of guys that I would be expecting to get the most of, probably Lynn, Keller, Schuster.
Okay. Bill Miner says, I had a perfect Dodgers 4-man with Michaelis. Unfortunately, I had a Braves 4-man with it. I don't think this is the best example, but I do think the most frustrating thing, or one of the most frustrating things in DFS, is when you like nail all of the low owned parts, and then like your chalky player, or like the high owned, like your either expensive or chalky player just lets you down. That's like the most
Absolutely.
frustrating thing in DFS.
Yeah, more so in other sports than baseball, because
Yeah,
like baseball, you sort of expect it's especially with hitters, you sort of
right.
expect it. It still sucks, but like nothing pisses me off more than NBA when like you have some random, you have a couple like 3%, 4% owned guys put up big games, and then like LeBron sucks or
Right. 35
Jokic
fantasy points
sucks
from
or whatever.
LeBron.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's extremely frustrating. Home run pick for this early slate.
Matt Olson.
All right. Who do I want here?
Or any member of the Dodgers.
All right. Going up against Corbin. I'll go lefty with Freddie Freeman. All right. Does anybody have any questions? We've got another 10 minutes that we could fill here. We don't necessarily need to fill these last 10 minutes. You guys could take some time setting your lineups as well. But if anybody has questions, we are happy to answer anything. I don't know if this is a question from Jordan. He asked, what is the best environment for hitting? I don't know if that was a question or a statement about one of the games, but do you have any thoughts on which game environment is best for hitting here?
Probably either the White Sox or Baltimore.
Okay. I mean, usually I'm just going to look for like which teams have the highest implied run totals, because that's going to tell me which has the best hitting environments. But
Well,
maybe
that's telling. It's also
that also
telling you
factors
who's
in how
facing the
good the
worst
team
pitchers.
is. Yeah, that's true.
Or who has the best offense.
Yeah. So I consider the pitcher they're facing to be part of that environment, but who has the best offense, not necessarily the case. So yeah.
I was thinking purely weather and park.
Okay.
In which case it's either the White Sox game or the Orioles game.
Okay. I like that. All right. Do we have any other questions? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we, usually like to talk about that we haven't done so already. Bill Miner says Braves against Oakland, but that's in Oakland. That's just the only problem with that game. Like, it's not not the best park to hit in. So just in terms, like, obviously the Braves are quite good, but in terms of game environment, not necessarily up there. Missed some because
the Coliseum and home run park factor for the Coliseum over the last 3 years, second lowest to Comerica, 21% worse than league average. You have a game in San Francisco, which home run park factor is 15% worse than league average. You have a game in Comerica, which is 27% worse than league average over the last 3 years. So yeah, I mean, Dodgers is actually so Dodgers is actually fourth highest, which I didn't realize.
Right.
Run park factor for Dodger Stadium is league average, but it's been well above average for home runs.
Really? I've always thought of Dodger Stadium has been a pitcher's park.
I thought it was neutral, which it is for runs, but for home runs it hasn't been. Guaranteed rate field where the White Sox play, second highest home run park factor, basically average in terms of runs.
Nice. Good to know. All right, we had another question from Jeff wanted to know if you have any interest in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think that like they're relatively low probability. They're not going to look as good as Texas, Atlanta, Dodgers. Also working against them is that the number 6 hitter is not in the player pool, and you cannot play the number 4 hitter and the number 7 hitter together on DraftKings. So you do have some limitations there, but I do like 1 through 5 in particular for Baltimore.
Oh, Bill was talking about last night when he said Braves against Oakland. Okay, misunderstood. Was it Keller and Eflin with an Angels 5-man stack? Is that viable today? Let's see. What are the ownership on Keller and Eflin? Got Eflin.
I mean, yes, it is. You're not going to get that much ownership to the Angels. You're going up against one of the most popular pitchers on the slate. If the salaries work, which they should, because most of the Angels are cheap, then yeah.
And even though Keller is popular, like he's only 24.5% projected ownership. It's not like sometimes you're gonna have pitchers that are like 70% owned and you really have to worry about it. But like, yeah, and Eflin at just 13%. Yeah, it's definitely viable on this slate. Somebody just complimented my V-neck. I'm pretty sure he's making fun of me, but I'm not. Jacob says, Leo, I love your V-neck. Where do you get it? I feel like you should only rock V-necks from now on. I think probably from Target.com, maybe something like that. That's usually where I get my shirts. Yeah. Bill says he's game stacking Dodgers Nats. All right.
Works. I'm the same way with shirts. Like I have some shirts that are like really nice and expensive, and then everything else I wear is just like a plain black shirt from like Target or Kohl's.
Yeah, they're just like, I get them in 3-packs typically. It's not spending a ton on my t-shirts.
Yeah, I have shirts to wear like if I'm in Vegas or going somewhere where I actually want to wear like nice clothes, but not nice clothes. Like
Nicer clothes.
yeah, like not dress clothes, but stuff that like you pay for. But yeah, generally it's just plain black $2 t-shirts.
Yeah. Chris Topher asks, Texas bottom of the order. Do you have any interest there?
My immediate answer is sure. It is ugly, but I mean they're cheap. They're going to be lower owned. Like they're not guys that I love as one-offs, but if you're stacking Texas, it's a way to be different.
And then as long as we're on the top subject, I am the KY asks, would you shift to batters 5 to 9 to get lower owned or go to a different game more often? I don't know if there's a right answer to that necessarily. Like I'm perfectly willing to play like batters in the bottom of the order. Obviously you're typically going to project better with batters in the top of the order. So often for me, it's going to be a mix of batters throughout the order. Do you have an answer there, Adam?
No, I mean, it's just not something that I really look at. Like, I don't really care which one I do. They're both completely viable ways of doing it, but it's still going to depend on the slate, what your alternatives are, who the bottom of the order hitters are.
Do you have a favorite Dodgers bat today? Probably Mookie.
So many. I mean, Mookie
leading off, and he's righty versus lefty. He's leading off, right? I'm assuming
their lineup isn't out, but should be.
Okay.
JD is nice as far as like a mid-range salary. Chris Taylor is free with MPE, so kind of depends how you're defining favorite. But if cost and everything doesn't matter, then Mookie.
David did it. Asks, who is the best shortstop today?
Let's see.
I tell you, the highest projected is Tim Anderson.
I have Seager as the highest projected, followed by Anderson. Chris Taylor is the best value.
Yeah, Seager and Anderson are just 0.1 fantasy points apart in the stochastic projections as the top two as well. So those two very close. Tim Anderson cheaper though.
Yeah, better value there in Anderson. Chris Taylor, I think, is the best. Actually, Rojas slightly edges him out in terms of point per dollar value, but Taylor projects better. So, yeah, if you're paying down, I think it's Taylor. If you're paying up, I think it's Seager or Anderson.
In the stochastic value column, we've also got Brandon Crawford, Miguel Rojas, and Tucupita Marcano up there as well in terms of value for shortstop. So, a lot of different ways to look at who's the best shortstop, but those are some that you can consider. With double RS, with popular stacks, do you opt to just make them 3-man stacks and go to another primary stack? I mean, that's an approach. It's all about just balancing your lineups out. So certainly that's one way to lower your ownership is if you want to play the popular stack, just don't play the full 5-man, and maybe you can get lower ownership on more bats if you don't play them as the full stack. But I take a lot of different approaches in my lineups. It's just about balancing the lineup as a whole. Adam, I see that you seem a little bit distracted. Are you needing to get back to your lineups?
I'm just trying to finish running stuff.
Okay. Yep. Tim Anderson has been pretty crappy this year so far. Yeah. It's still fairly early in the season. I think that his larger sample size, I think he's pretty good. So not that concerned.
Yet. That's not great.
Yeah, it's not great. Arnold Lane says, I have indoor clothes, so if I burn a hole in them with cigarettes, I don't feel bad. That's another approach you can take. I know a lot of people have clothes that they just wear around the house. I should maybe think about doing that. Man, Chi-Town Sean just sent us $50. Says, thank you, gents. So appreciate all you do. No question or anything. Just sent us $50. Really appreciate that. Chi-Town Sean. I hope that means that you just won some money. Did you just win some money? Because people don't usually send a $50 super chat if they haven't just had some success in DFS. So hopefully you have been having some success here. Jacob confirmed that he was not joking. He does love my V-neck. I love my V-neck too. I'm a big V-neck fan. He finished 4th last night. Okay. All right. Hell yeah, Sean. Nice job there. All right. I think that we have probably made it to the end of the show. I don't think we have any other questions. We'll spend 10 minutes getting our lineups in. Adam, do you have any final thoughts?
Good luck on the slate. It seems like a pretty wide open tournament slate where most things kind of suck, which I think is fun.
That it does make it a lot more fun. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you have not yet liked the video, please do so. Congrats again to Chi-Town Sean for that 4th place finish last night. Let's win some money again today. Good luck today, and I think you'll see Adam and I again both later on tonight. I'm guessing Adam's going to be on Deeper Dive. I'm going to be on Live Before Lock. I don't know for sure, but I know that I'm on Live Before Lock later.
I am on the Deeper Dive.
All right, so you will see both of us later tonight for the late slate as well. But good luck on today's slate. Talk to you tonight.